My name is Francis, and in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how to rewrite your story, because we all have some story about who we think we are. And we believe that this story is just the way that it is. Maybe you have a story playing in your head that you can only make this amount of money per month. Maybe you have a story that you can only attract this kind of relationship. Maybe you have a story that you can only do these kind of things in life and that you have to be part of this 9 to 5 job. Maybe you have a story that life is difficult. Maybe you have a story that life is hard and you have to do this. There's all sorts of stories that can be playing in our head. But the problem is that this story is nothing more than just a story. And we believe that this story has to define every single aspect of our life, not realizing that we can actually rewrite that story and shift into the reality that we actually prefer. But the key to do this is to first realize what the story actually is and then become conscious of it. So what actually is a story? It's nothing more than thoughts in your head that you unconsciously attach to, believing that these thoughts are who you actually are. And when you're unconsciously attached to these thoughts, not realizing that you actually have them, you create a sense of identity and you believe that these thoughts are who you are, and you don't realize that they are just thought patterns that you may be unconsciously attached to, because a lot of us are unconsciously absorbed in our thoughts and we don't have awareness that we even have these thoughts to begin with. Not only is this unconsciously creating your reality, this is also creating a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, and a lot of worry, and that's also part of the story. That you have to be anxious, that you have to be worried, that you have to be fearful based on the conditions that you are in right now in this present moment. And this story involves literally every single aspect of your life, and a lot of the times it's a completely self-fulfilling prophecy that completely controls your life without you even realizing it. And that's the biggest part, is that we don't even realize that we have the story. We are unconsciously attached to our thoughts, and these thoughts about who we think we are controlling our reality. So the key is to realize what the story is, which is a collection of thought processes and belief systems and emotions that come as a result of those thoughts and those belief systems. Because what is a belief system? It's nothing more than reoccurring thoughts in your mind that are usually happening on autopilot. But the interesting thing is that they don't have to be on autopilot. You can become conscious of the story and actually rewrite that story, but the key is to first become conscious of it. Because you can't rewrite your story and you can't change the direction of your life unless you first become conscious of the fact that there is a story to begin with. Unless you first become conscious of your thoughts, you can't then change those thoughts into something else. If you don't become conscious that you are unconsciously attached to some kind of identity of who you think you are, then you're not going to be able to shift that identity into something else. Think about it. How can you rewrite your story? How can you change your identity if you're not even conscious of the fact that you already have an identity to begin with? You have to first become conscious of that. So the first step in this process to rewrite your story and shift into the reality that you prefer to be in, shift into the identity, shift into who you actually want to be, not the unconscious story that's playing on autopilot, is to first become conscious of the story that is already there. Realize that there already is a story. Because without realizing that there is a story, once again, you're not going to be able to shift into that new reality. So learn how to become the conscious observer of the story. You can do this in meditation, but then not just in meditation, but then learn how to incorporate that sense of awareness in your daily life and start realizing what you tell yourself. Maybe you're in a scarcity mindset. Maybe you believe that things are too expensive, that's too expensive, I can't do this, or I can't do that, or that person's too good looking, I can't be with that person, I'm not worthy enough to be part of that relationship, or I'm not worthy enough to start my business, or I'm not worthy enough to follow my dreams, or I have to be in this 9 to 5 job. Are these stories inherent facts in the universe, or are they just stories? Now think about that for a second. Is that story actually who you are at a deeper level? Is it a fact in the universe that you are a shy person and that you have to do a 9 to 5 job? Is that a fact? Or is that is that something that somebody told you or that you unconsciously agreed to, and now you believe that you have to follow that path? Because in reality, there's no fact, there's no meaning to that story other than the meaning that you give it. And the more that you become the conscious observer of your thoughts and realize what it is that you're telling yourself, you can then start to shift into a new reality, and you can consciously write that story for yourself rather than unconsciously following that path that was unconsciously created for you. And the key word here is unconscious and autopilot, because you may not even realize that the story is there. So the key is to become conscious of it, and then from that space of awareness, being there as the spacious witness of your thoughts, of your emotions, do not identify with the story. Don't create a sense of self around the story, because it is not who you are at a deeper level. And that brings me to the next step, which is to realize that the story is not actually who you are. First, realize that there is a story. Realize that there is a story. Okay, you know what, Francis, I understand. I get you. There's a story, but now what do I actually do? Because I see there's a story. I see that I'm telling myself I'm not confident. I see that I may have self-limiting beliefs telling me that I can only make this amount of money per month. But what do I actually do now? How can I shift into that identity, Francis? Because I understand, I get you. There's stories. How do I actually change them? Well, the next step is to realize that the story is not actually who you are. At a deeper level, the story is just thoughts, and you are not actually your thoughts. Your thoughts have nothing to do with your sense of self at a deeper level. Your sense of self that you think is who you are is nothing more than a collection of thoughts and experiences and memories. What is a memory? It's a collection of thoughts and feelings and emotions. What is a belief system? It's a collection of thoughts and then feelings come after, and then emotions come after those belief systems. And usually, the more attached you are to a belief system, the harder it will be to let it go. That's why you have to be very conscious and very honest with yourself, and be very honest and say, is this story actually who I am? So is this, because if you're invested in a story of being a shy person, you're not necessarily going to want to let that go. You're going to want to hold on. And your ego is going to convince yourself why you can't let go of this. That's why when somebody proposes maybe an idea to you on how to be a confident person or how to be more charismatic, because you're so attached to that identity of being a shy person, you will not look at that evidence to support maybe why you can be a confident person. You don't even believe that it's possible because your reticular activating system is going to be attached to only seeking evidence that you are a shy person, and you're going to see a reflection of that identity of who you think you are. You're not going to want to let that go. You're going to want to hold on to the fact that you're a shy person. You're going to want to hold on to the fact that you can only make $5,000 a month. And you know what? You're going to get defensive too. Maybe your ego gets defensive and you don't even listen to any evidence that can go against that. You're not going to consider any other alternatives because you believe that's just how it is. You don't see another option. You maybe, when somebody proposes an opposite idea to you, you go, no, I can't do that. That's not possible. That's just, I'm a shy person, Francis, and I have to go to 9 to 5 job because my parents told me that I had to, and this is the only way. Is there really any other way, Francis? Can I really just follow my dreams? Well, who said that you can't? Did you unconsciously agree to that? Did somebody tell you? Where did you even come up with that story? Is that story even yours? Did you decide that story for yourself, or did you unconsciously decide? Did you consciously create that story? Did you actually consciously decide when you were a 7-year-old, this is who I am, and I consciously choose to shift into this identity? Of course not. You unconsciously created that, and now because you're watching this video, I'm sharing with you that you can actually make the conscious choice to shift that story into a new story. But the way you do that is first to realize that the story is not who you are, and you probably created it unconsciously, and you got it from some outside source, maybe family, maybe friends, maybe school. And I'm not saying that these people intentionally injected this story into you so you can be negative and like society places a story onto you so that you can't follow your dreams. No, they're unconscious of their own stories too. The patterns and the conditioning of their ego was placed onto you, and they didn't even know that they have a story as well. And so that story that they have was put onto you unconsciously, and this story and this cycle of people, and they believe that that's just who they are, is going to continue for eternity, and people are going to be unconsciously creating their realities until somebody like you comes along and sees a video like this and realizes, wait a second, I can actually become conscious of my story and I can actually rewrite it. And so the key here is to develop awareness. And with that awareness and consciousness of who you actually are, you're going to be able to rewrite that story. Because let's say right now you're not a confident person and you want to rewrite your story and become a confident person. Or maybe, let's put it like this, maybe you can only make $2,000 a month. Okay, 2,000. Let's just say that's what it is. And then you want to rewrite that story and you want to make $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month. Of course, the second story is better than the first story, right? Better to make 10K a month than 5K a month. And it's better to be confident than not confident. And it's also better to be somebody that follows their dreams, to, create an identity like, yeah, I am somebody that follows my dreams. That's who I am. I am a healthy person, or I am this kind of person. Or let's say you want to be a coach. Like, I'm a coach. I'm a mindfulness coach where I teach people. I am a mindfulness coach, or I am an artist. Obviously, these are better stories than a story of I am somebody that goes to a 9-to-5 job, or I can't follow my dreams. You see how there's a better story, there's a better version of yourself that technically already exists now. We'll get to that later. And there's another story where you are unconsciously having a bad story. And both of these can be conscious, both of these can be unconscious, and one is better than the other. But the question here is, are either of these stories actually who you are? Now think about this for a second, because once again, it's better to have the other story than that story. But are either of them who you are? Because I'm proposing to you an idea that neither of these stories are actually who you are, and that if you identify with either story, you're never going to have the freedom to shift into any story that you prefer, because you believe that you are a story. You believe that you are your thoughts. But the fact and the truth of the matter is that you are not a thought. A thought telling you who you think you are is not actually who you are. And if you contemplate this deeply enough and you observe your thoughts in meditation, or you just observe your thoughts in your daily life as well, which is the most ideal thing to do, by the way, not just meditating, but then use that awareness into everything that you do. If you're honest with yourself, you will realize that your thoughts are not actually who you are. I've come to the conclusion that I am not even a human being. And the thought story of me being a human being is just a label that we attach to, and we decided that we are just human beings. It's a decision that was arbitrarily made, that we just are human beings. We created this label that I am a human being. Well, is the word and the thought of human being actually what and who you are? Because in reality, what you actually are beyond the physical form and the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions and the labels that we put on those things, is the label actually what you are? And is the feeling even beyond the label actually what you are? Is a sense perception what you are? What actually are you? Who are you at a deeper level? Because I'm proposing to you an idea that you are not your story. You are not even a human being. So then what actually are you? Francis, this is going way too deep. This video is getting too esoteric for me. I understand what you're saying. I have a story, but like, why are you going so deep with this? How can you say that I'm not even a human being? How can you say that you're not a human being? Well, If you think about it deeply enough, it's all part of the story that you're a human being, that you have this 9 to 5 job, that you're not confident. But who you actually are beyond that is actually just pure consciousness and pure awareness that is observing the story. Because if there is something there, something, which is technically not a thing, but we're going to call it something for the purposes of this explanation, if there's something there that can observe the story, okay, and the story is a thing, but that something observing that story is not actually a thing, it is just pure empty awareness observing that story. When you realize the awareness that comes before all form, when you realize that here I am and here's the voice in my head, but I am not that voice, when you can start to shift into that perspective, into that objective perspective of just kind of looking at your thoughts, you can then see that there's the voice in your head and there you are observing it, but you are not that voice. And from that space of being the awareness, as that spaciousness, as that witnessing presence of your thoughts, is the place that you can actually rewrite your story into anything that you actually want. Because you realize that you are not the story, but you are the pure empty awareness and consciousness that comes before the story. And from that space, you can then rewrite your story into anything that you actually want. From that space, from that awareness, is where things like affirmations will actually work now. Because now, when you start to tell yourself, I am something, what you think, you literally become. And it's always going to work that way. Visualization is always going to work. Affirmations are always going to work. But with this deeper understanding of who you actually are, the affirmations will become like they're going to work on overdrive, because you now understand that they are not actually who you are. You will tap into the true power of affirmations, of gratitude exercises, of visualizing yourself as that version of you, as if it's already happening now. It will work in a much better way when you realize that you are the awareness observing the story. So the more conscious that you become, the more awareness that you actually develop, the easier it will be to rewrite your story, because you detach from the story and you know that it's not who you are at a deeper level. And so the final step to all of this is to just rewrite your story. If you're watching this video this far, if you're still watching this video, you're at the point where you can probably just give yourself permission to step into that identity. Just give yourself the choice to just be that version of you. Because you have to realize that version of you already exists now. Doesn't exist in the future, doesn't exist one day. It already exists now within that field of consciousness and awareness. And just it already exists within that universal intelligence that exists in this present moment. Because the present moment is the only thing that exists. And to rewrite that story means to just realize that you have to tune into that frequency and realize that it already exists within you in that awareness right now. It already exists. And so you can start to tune into this in a much easier way. You can rewrite that story when you start to become more aware and just observe your thoughts. When you observe your thoughts, when you become the awareness of your thoughts, you will then see that you can rewrite the story into anything that you want. So that's all I have for you today. If you like this kind of content, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, because I post a new video every single day. Hit that like button so more people can wake up to the truth and actually rewrite their story into whatever it is that they want. If you like this kind of content, hit that like button, and hit that like button so more people can actually wake up to the truth and rewrite their story. I also wanted to announce that I have a free guided meditation that is specifically designed to connect you deeper to the moment. If you want to download it, it's completely free. Just hit the link that's in the description box of this video. I'll also leave it as a comment in this video. Also, if you wanted to apply for a free consultation and become a private client, the link will be in the description box of this video. That's all I have for you today. Have yourself a great day, and see you in the next video.